This is the all-new Redington Ace, and it's Redington's all-new high-ish end freshwater fly reel. And today, I'm here to review it. The Ace replaces the very popular and very long-lived Rise in the Redington lineup. The Rise represented sort of the peak performance for Redington in their freshwater lineup, and that's what this Ace does as well. Rather than going for a Rise 4, they decided to rename it. Luckily, we also have a great new tagline, which is, "Don't gamble with success." And while that may be a little bit cringy, the reel is pretty solid. And if you were a fan of the Rise and the functionality and the performance, you're really gonna be happy with this new Ace as well. At $240, it sits pretty much at the top end of the freshwater line. It's just a really solid, fully machined, all-around performer, and it's just a great reel. And let's dive into why that's the case by starting with the drag. And one of the things that Redington has said about this new Ace is that they have improved the drag strength. I don't have a Rise with me, but I can tell you that this 5/6 size actually has a fair bit of drag, and definitely more than you ever need on that trout stream. So while I can't absolutely confirm that, I can tell you that the drag is pretty nice. It's definitely not the world's smoothest drag, but again, it's gonna be pretty good for those freshwater situations. In terms of adjustability, you're gonna get somewhere around 2.25 turns, depending on how tight you really wanna tighten it on that top end. That's kind of our favorite range of adjustability. You're gonna have enough adjustability in that range so that you're not over tightening it by accident, but also enough to dial in exactly what you need. This being a freshwater reel, it also does not have a sealed drag, and if you take this apart, which you do just by popping the spool off, you can see that there's quite a few exposed components. So if you did use this in the salt, I would make sure that you rinse it really thoroughly. It does have an O-ring here that in theory should prevent some of that water from creeping in, but this is by no means a design for saltwater reel. And that's the drag, which is, like I said, pretty good. So let's move on to the spool. And the spool is actually pretty interesting here. One of the design features that they mention a lot in the marketing material is this latticed spool, which they claim is the first time it's ever been done, which that may in fact be true. However, it really just seems like a ported spool to me. That said, they've got a really unique geometry here. So like reels like the Grande, you've got a pretty heavy V shape at the bottom. And what that's gonna do is reduce that backing capacity and increase that retrieval rate. Unfortunately, for our calculations, makes things a little bit more complicated. So these are really just gonna be estimates at the end of the day. But it does have a max spool diameter of 3.4 inches, a fairly nice narrow width of about 1 inch, and a max arbor size of about 2.2 inches. And just keep in mind that that's where that V shape really starts to matter, is at the arbor size. I'm gonna guess that this is gonna have a retrieval rate somewhere around 8 inches per turn. Again, we just can't prove that out mathematically. Redington claims that this is gonna hold about 100 yards of backing, and I'm inclined to believe them. That backing should go kind of just up to the end of that V shape, and 100 yards sort of feels like about the right number. You're gonna get pretty good performance out of this reel, but not spectacular performance. When you hold this in your hand, this feels like just the start of what might be considered a large arbor these days. And it's by no means an extra large arbor, but for a reel that's sort of mid-price, that's kind of what you'd expect. So let's move on to the weight. And the weight of this reel comes in at 4.9 ounces, which is actually pretty light. Weight is one area that some of the lower priced reels out there definitely struggle with. And at 4.9 ounces, you're not getting an ultralight reel, but you are getting a reel that is going to be light enough for virtually anybody's trout fishing needs. And I think that's totally fine. Before we continue, I wanted to let you know about Trident Travel, our new destination travel service where you'll get our expert planning and guidance at no additional cost. That means no credit card fees, no booking fees, and for a limited time, you'll even earn Trident rewards on your travel bookings. So for every trip you book, you'll be earning valuable points that you can use towards free tackle here at Trident. Recently, we've had some clients go on some absolutely fantastic trips like salmon fishing in British Columbia, bone fishing in Belize, and Arctic char fishing in Iceland. So if you're thinking about taking a fly fishing trip, Trident Travel is the way to do it. We've got a ton of great destinations, excellent service, and even more destinations being added every month. Check us out at tridentflyfishing.com/travel. And with that, let's move on to the sound and let's take a listen. As you can tell, it's fairly muted on both the incoming and the outgoing, and there's no differentiation there. So this is not what I would call a high-end sound by any means. This is a sound, which is better than no sound, but it's okay. Nobody's going to be confusing this with a T-board. Last but not least are the ergonomics, and the ergonomics on this reel are actually pretty good. I don't remember what the old Rise was like, but the drag knob here is really pretty easy to grab. It's easy to adjust. It's big enough, and so's the handle. It's not huge, but totally fine. It does have this sort of rubbery texture that Redington's been using for a while, which I think is nice and probably actually holds up better than a lot of other handles when it gets wet. The spool, like we already showed you, it's really easy to pop off, and frankly, it's just a competently designed reel that works exactly how you'd expect it to. That leaves us with the price, which, as I've already mentioned, comes in at $240. And I think that's a fairly reasonable price for this reel. You're getting a fully machined reel that offers pretty good performance at a fairly reasonable price. Unfortunately, though, for Redington, this is also a fairly crowded segment with some really good reels out there. You've got the Lamson Remix, which is definitely one of the better reels, and frankly, the Liquid, which is even less money, is even better than that. You've also got the Guru for a little bit more money, and you've got one of our perennial favorites, the Orvis Hydros, also right there. Ultimately, I think what this Redington Ace offers is that fully machined performance and look at that price point. And frankly, that's sort of the same value prop that reels like the TFO NTR offer. This isn't really just a great package, and if you're a fan of the Redington brand, this is going to be a really solid all-around freshwater reel. Tell me what you think about this Redington Ace by leaving us a comment in the box below. Don't forget, if you're enjoying these reviews, please subscribe to our channel. It really helps us out. And of course, if you've got questions about this Redington Ace or any reel in the Redington lineup, give us a call at 888-413-5211 or email us 24/7 at support@tridentflyfishing.com. I'm Ben. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.